something you should have I would call intermediate education in is fundamental analysis. Now, the great thing about penny stocks is you don't need to get crazy in depth when it comes to the fundamentals, but you need to have a working knowledge and you need to understand how the game gets played. Today, I'm going to talk about the top 5 things to look for in fundamental analysis. Before we get started, everyone, be sure to like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends, and if you're on YouTube, ring that bell to be notified as soon as we go live. Between the Twist, the podcast with Matt and Jack and Kyle and Bryce, and the long-form podcast with Kim, Steven, and I go live every single morning. These tips videos, watch lists, trade recaps, there's so much out there. I want you to be notified as soon as they drop. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, share with your friends. All right, everyone, I'm lead trainer with StocksToTrade, Tim Bohen. Today, we're going to be breaking down fundamental analysis and why you should care and the biggest things you look for. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, I think that, I don't know if maybe fallacy is the right term. We'll go with that. There's this fallacy out there that you need to have like this ridiculous ability to go through a balance sheet or an SEC filing or really understand the fundamentals of everything when it comes to the finances of these low-priced momentum stocks. And listen, what I want you to do, I want you to understand this stuff and know it. Definitely check out some of the other videos I've done on the channel talking about fundamentals. Check out the Steady Trade team if you really want to get in depth in it. But that being said, don't go down the rabbit hole of just consuming all your time, because all of us know, hopefully you know, maybe I'll teach you that in this video, but most of us know, and all seasoned day traders know that there's always a disconnect. You know, one of the reasons we trade these wild movers is they're disconnected from reality for a short period of time. That's what makes these stocks such great longs on the front side when the news hits and when they're disconnected from reality. And then, hey, from a short selling perspective, that's what makes these things incredible shorts, because at some point, this will show my Midwest breed here, but at some point the chickens come home to roost, as they say, and the fundamentals catch up and the stock becomes undisconnected. So I want you to understand what's going on, what's happening, but don't become too biased. Recognize price momentum, recognize volume momentum, recognize hot sectors. You know, if you watch these videos, you know how I just pound and pound and pound on hot sectors, because when a sector's hot, whether it be weed or electric vehicles or psychedelics or cryptocurrencies, you know, we look for those disconnects from reality. Okay. So that being said, let's talk about the top 5 things you're going to look for, because these are the big things you need to focus on, and don't get trapped in that rabbit hole. Next thing you know, you go down those internet rabbit holes. Next thing you know, you're spending 3 years in the woods looking for Bigfoot, or you're chasing down every alien theory. First thing we want to do is we want to just read and interpret the news. So VUZI, VUZI, many of you might be familiar with this stock. It's been a very recent runner, recent momentum stock. And, so everything I'm going to be doing is from StocksToTrade. Check out the trial, okay? If you get the trial, you get full access to everything in the package. And ultimately, I mean, you've heard me say it a million times, I think everything you need to day trade is there. So that being said, we can see Vuzix introduces one of the world's tiniest and most advanced micro LED display-based production engine at SID, which is some sort of conference, inclusive of a new technology video overview. So what I'm getting at is, this is very buzzwordy stuff. Smallest, most advanced, LED displays, projection engine. So what we like about this, AR, okay, and heads-up displays, athletic eyewear, So that's what's great about this, is we can quickly recognize that they're playing the game. And that's what we like. Now, again, and I'll probably repeat this 5 times in this video, we're looking for short-term moves, okay? I'm not believing in their AR headset and holding for 5 years. What I'm looking for is stuff that's going to get traders excited. And they're playing the game. Notice, first paragraph, they're dropping like every buzzword you can think of. So this is what we're looking for on a momentum stock. You know, if you recall, VUZI, depending on when you're watching this, was one of the wildest runners last winter. You know, going from, geez, it broke out at $4.50 in the middle of December, went to $30. Pulled back hard, but look at this bounce today, a 10% bounce. Stock's currently above VWAP. Also hitting the high day. Anything significant there? You know, stock trading unusual volume, recent runner, above VWAP, big gainer that's held ground sideways through the day and is hitting the high of the day at 1:38 p.m., which is basically 2 p.m. And some of you may have heard that rundown before. But anyway, this was on our radar this morning in the Steady Trade team, again, because they're dropping all the buzzwords. That's what we want. So look for that in the news. And again, it's built right in to StocksToTrade. If you go to the info tab, you've got it right there. You've got your SEC filings. You've got your statistics breaking down their finances, sales, short, float, etc. So next thing we want to do is look into exactly that, the key statistics. So, you know, there's a lot of data here, a lot of stuff to look at. I want to talk about the things you care about. Ultimately, the big thing we care about, do they have sales? Do they actually, do they have actual revenues? You'll be surprised. You might be, if you're new to this game, if you're new to penny stocks, you might think, well, they're a publicly traded company. They have to have revenues. In biotech stock land, which is, a significant majority of penny stocks are biotech stocks. By far majority of them, zero revenue. Zero. Okay. They don't even have a product to sell. So I look at VUZI, 12 million in revenue, $1 billion market cap. That's incredible. So I like that they have sales. Okay. They got 12 million sales, but here's a great example. Talk about a disconnect from reality. They have 12 million in sales a year, and they're currently sitting at $1 billion market cap. Love it. But that being said, I'm checking a box. They got real sales. Other things we're going to look at, profit margins. You can see they're a money loser. We're looking at cash. They actually have a decent amount of cash sitting on 132 million. I mean, it's not bad cash balance for a speculative technology company. Other things we're looking at, debt ratio, and then we're always going to look at the float, and then the percentage of float held by shorts. Now remember, that is lagging data. Okay, I think a lot of people think that the short float data is real time. We're not there yet. I think we're getting there. And when I say we as a market, this isn't just StocksToTrade. I mean, any wherever you look, if you're looking at Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, another platform, SEC filings, your short percentage of float is lagging data because it only gets reported a couple weeks down the road. But it gives us a general reading. We can see 15% of the float was short at the point that this was reported. Pretty high. So that's what we're looking for, again, in day trading. We're looking for these heavily shorted stocks where people are trapped because they see the disconnect between, a money-losing company with $1 billion market cap. Next thing we talk about is I want you looking for trustworthy, good data, okay? And ultimately, listen, you're going to, and I won't name names, but many of you might be familiar, and we have some of them in the StocksToTrade news feed. I mean, there's some pretty pumpy websites out there. It kind of bums me out because there's some names, and they're listed here that, years ago, they used to be very dependable, but it's just gotten, not to get too philosophical, but, the world we're in right now is such a clickbait world. And I've seen a lot of these websites that used to offer good information have just gone to like clickbaity stuff. I mean, I'm guessing you guys know what clickbait is. It's like, teen superstar, what do they look like now? Those pop-up ads, and a lot of these finance sites have gone that route. But The nice thing is you can go by confirmed news feeds like PR Newswire, okay, Canada Newswire. There's legitimate, the SEC filings are always the ultimate arbiter of reality. I almost said nobody lies in their SEC filings. People lie in their SEC filings, but they go to jail. So most companies don't lie in their SEC filings, but look for reputable sources like PR Newswire. And then the great feature that's built in to StocksToTrade is breaking news. Okay, this is a great way to get that trustworthy news, because what's awesome about breaking news, and I'll go quickly, you might be familiar with it, I've got other videos on it. We've got 2 analysts with over 25 years of market experience of reading the news. So what they do, they're watching all these feeds. They know the clickbaity sites. They know the penny stock pumpers. They know the Twitter pumpers. They know the chat rooms. So what they do is then aggregate real, actionable, trustworthy data and drop it in the breaking news chat. So check that out. We'll have a link below. I think it is especially if you're new, because you might have been looking at that list of news feeds and you'd be like, well, Tim, you said you wouldn't name names. How do I know which ones? I tell you, the breaking news chat is the best way to do that, because these guys are only going to drop you actionable, trustworthy info. Next thing you want to focus on is, that undervalued stock, or I should even say overvalued stock. Again, what we're looking for is disconnects from reality. So it's actually, and I know this might be so counterintuitive to you, but one of the reasons I chose VUZI was that absolute disconnect from reality, because what that does is that brings in short sellers, particularly, that look at that balance sheet and become fixated with the balance sheet. I mean, listen, another great example is the meme stonks. GameStop. I mean, if you look at the financials of GameStop, it is an axe murder. Okay, do not let your children look at any of the financials of GameStop. That's not, young people shouldn't be subjected to that. But I mean, here we are 6 months later, and the stock is still up, from, what? It started the run in a year ago, 4 or 5 single digits. It was in the teens at the end of the year. Here we are still at $185 today. Stock's still green again today. Or even AMC. I mean, AMC movie theaters. Doomed. This stock just spiked from $13.50 to $14.67. Again, it's green again. It's not far, it's at a multi-month high. So look for these stocks that are heavily shorted with that disconnect from reality. And the key is, just don't be a true believer. Day trade them. Trade the chart patterns, okay? Breakouts, VWAP holds, dip and rips, and then be done with them at the end of the day and retrade them. I mean, if you were a day trader in a GameStop or a AMC, I mean, these things have been day tradable stocks 80% of days since December. Next thing is kind of what I kind of segued into it, but the 5th most important thing is combine the technicals and the fundamentals. And I kind of hinted on that a minute ago when I talked about focus on the chart patterns, okay? Ultimately, back to VUZI is that example. We want a story. We want a reason for people to get excited. Then we interpret that, we see the buzzwords, we look at the chart, we look at the volume, we know the past history of the stock, and then we're going to combine that with the intraday chart patterns. And you noticed I got excited when I started the video. This stock is above VWAP. It's a few cents from a high a day. It's 2 p.m. If this breaks that high a day, it's going to squeeze and probably going to gap up again tomorrow, because that news just dropped this morning at the market open. There's a lot of traders that didn't see that. It's probably going to get disseminated. Who knows? It'll probably get mentioned in the mainstream media. So when you combine the chart patterns with the fundamentals and a skeptical eye, okay, listen, VUZI's going to crash at some point. That market cap does not support 11 million or 12 million in sales. This new product, Who knows? They might not ship that for years. But if you can combine an understanding of the fundamentals plus the intraday chart patterns, which check out my ebook, we'll link it below, the 10 trading patterns you need to know. There's 5 long patterns, there's 5 short patterns. Combine the two. I call it techno-fundamental analysis. Sounds kind of corny, but it works. Techno-fundamental analysis. Mashing them together. I probably need some sort of better acronym. But yeah, I think, listen, if you watch me on pre-market prep, you'll see me every time I'm looking at that news. I'm looking at the quick balance sheet, that key statistics, as we call it. I want to know, are there sales? What's the debt? There's just a few things that once you get a system down, you can quickly scan them. And this doesn't take time, okay? Ultimately, listen, we're making snap decisions. But I think the more you repeat the process, the more you work on that OODA loop, OODA, okay? Google OODA loop by Roddy Boyd innovated it. But it's that idea of looping through the process to improve it, shorten your time, and increase your accuracy. That being said, if you like the video, drop me a like and check out the StocksToTrade team. I went fast, talked about a lot of different concepts here, but if you hit that link below, you join the StocksToTrade team. I do 2 webinars a day, every single trading day. There's so much to go over, so much to learn. The great thing about it, with those 2 webinars, you're never more than a couple hours away from getting your question answered. Check out the StocksToTrade team, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.